For over 20 years, an entire English town trusted one man with their lives.
A quiet, friendly doctor who visited the elderly, sat beside them,
and promised that he'd be okay. But what no one realized was that every visit followed the same chilling ritual. A syringe, a silent wait, and then death made to look like peaceful sleep.
By the time anyone questioned it, hundreds were already gone. And the most terrifying part? He never looked like a killer. He looked like someone you trust with your life. Welcome to Truthful. If you're liking what you see, let me know in the comments. And now, let's dive into the story. Honestly, dude, imagine living in a quiet, postcard-perfect English town where the local doctor is basically treated like a saint.
Only to realize he's been low-key cleansing the neighborhood of its elderly residents for over 20 years. It is actually insane. Dr. Harold Shipman wasn't just some guy in a white coat.
He was the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing.
And you wanted to believe the cold-blooded ritual he performed every single time he decided someone's time was up.
You've probably felt that weird comfort when a doctor looks you in the eye and tells you everything is going to be fine, right?
Well, for the people of Hyde, that look was a death sentence because Shipman would specifically hunt for the most vulnerable, lonely seniors who had no one left to check on them. He'd walk into their homes, pull up a chair,
and act like he was their best friend, listening to their life stories while secretly prepping a syringe full of pure, lethal diamorphine.
But here was where things get super dark. He wouldn't just jab them and leave. He'd sit there in total silence, watching the life fade out of their eyes like he was some kind of twisted scientist.
He'd look at his watch, wait for the pulse to stop, and then casually rearrange the room to make it look like they just fell asleep while drinking tea.
No way, man. He even convinced the entire town that he was treating them with kindness, while in reality, he was playing God with a needle.
He was so manipulative that he'd convince families that an autopsy was unnecessary because it would be too stressful for them, and push for cremation immediately.
Literally turning his crimes into a pile of gray ash before anyone could even get suspicious.
It's kind of crazy to think that for decades, this guy was the most trusted man in town, while simultaneously being the most prolific serial killer in human history. And he was doing it all with a smile on his face. But here's where things got really interesting. And honestly, it is frustrating as hell, because the system totally fumbled the bag and let him keep killing long after he should have been behind bars. You see, Shipman wasn't a new player to the game.
Back in the mid-70s, he actually got busted for forged prescriptions and a heavy drug addiction of his own.
But because he was a professional,
the medical board just gave him a slap on the wrist and let him keep his license after a tiny stint in rehab.
That's a massive what-if moment that'll make your skin crawl, because if they just banned him then, hundreds of people would still be alive today. Fast forward to the 90s, and his ego was through the roof.
He opened his own solo practice,
which meant no one was looking over his shoulder or checking his supply cabinet while he ramped up his body count to terrifying levels. A neighboring doctor, Linda Reynolds, eventually realized that Shipman's patients were dying at a rate that was literally 3 times higher than any other clinic in the area. And they were all dying in the exact same way, sitting upright in their favorite chairs, fully dressed,
as if they just blinked and stopped existing. It was like a death signature that everyone was blind to.
She actually reported him to the coroner, and a secret police investigation started. But dude, get this. The detectives were so incompetent that they didn't even check his criminal record or his medical files properly.
They literally asked him for his own records,
and he just gave them fake ones. They cleared him within a month, and that all clear was basically a green light for Shipman to go on a final, frenzied killing spree,
making him feel like he was absolutely untouchable by the law.
That ego finally caught up to him in 1998 when he targeted Kathleen Grundy, the former mayor, which was easily the biggest mistake of his life because he got greedy and tried to pull off a low-budget heist. He forged her entire will to leave him nearly £400,000. But because he was a complete boomer when it came to technology, he didn't realize that computers keep a digital receipt of every single thing you do. He backdated his medical notes to make it look like Kathleen was a secret heroin addict to explain the drugs in her system. But he didn't know about metadata. The police tech experts found that those files were actually created hours after she was already dead.
This is the moment everything changed. The daughter of the victim, a sharp lawyer named Angela,
noticed that the will looked like it was written by a toddler and had specific typos that matched Shipman AS old.
Janky typewriter, like the letter E was always slightly crooked.
When they finally exhumed Kathleen's body and found it loaded with morphine, the house of cards came crashing down, and the true scale of the horror was revealed.
As the news broke, the entire town of Hyde went into a state of pure shock.
Imagine the trauma of realizing that the man who delivered your kids and sat at your dinner table was actually a monster who might have murdered your grandmother. We're talking about 218 confirmed murders, but according to his cellmate, Shipman later bragged that the real number was over 500,
which is just mind-blowing. Experts think he was trying to relive the trauma of watching his own mother die of cancer when he was a kid,
over and over again, until he became the monster he once feared.
He took his own life in a prison cell in 2004, taking his secrets to the grave and never showing a single ounce of remorse,
leaving a legacy that remains a chilling reminder that sometimes the person holding the medicine is the one you should be most afraid of. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Like, how many people are walking around right now, trusting the very person who's planning their end? Stories like this remind us, the truth isn't always what it seems.
Sometimes the real danger hides behind the faces we trust the most. If this story shocked you, make sure you hit subscribe and join Truthful, because here, we uncover the stories they don't want you to hear. And trust me, this is just the beginning.